Hitting 200 miles an hour is nearly impossible.
It's one of those landmarks. It's everybody wants the patch for their jacket.
Bragging rights, straight up. It's just faster than you are, man.
A lot of cars do really well to 100 miles an hour, 120, or even to 150. You get cars that accelerate extremely quickly. But once you start getting to 160, 170, 180, it's a whole different ballgame.
You have to realize that you start going that fast, you may have 500 pounds pushing up on the car.
The drag on the car just becomes such a hurdle to overcome, and you need to do it by either reducing drag or upping horsepower or some combination of the two.
Each single mile per hour, every little tick on the speedometer is just a war to get through that aerodynamic wall.
It's just so hard to do.
We returned to Bonneville with our Jetta Hybrid land speed world record car in search of the world record, which we didn't qualify for on the first time we went because the car wasn't in production yet. Now with the Jetta Hybrid actually in production, we now qualify for the production class. Now we can make legitimate runs and actually earn ourselves a place in the record book. There's no place in the world quite like Bonneville. It's just such a strange, surreal place, and going fast there is like nothing else. This isn't Speed Week, this is the World Finals. It's the last event that Bonneville's going to put on for the rest of the year. There were fewer cars, the weather's totally different, it's actually much colder, easily below the 50s. I don't think it ever got above 50 degrees when we were out in the salt. The Germans, this is a Volkswagen, remember, were particularly interested in us hitting 300 kilometers an hour, which is about 186.4 miles an hour. Then maybe we were thinking, perhaps we could crank up the boost a little bit more and we might crack 200 miles an hour. We couldn't have done this without the help of an excellent team, an excellent crew, and that's what we had. Michael is a Volkswagen engineer based in California, but from Germany, who was there to help with the powertrain calibration. So every single time we're doing a run, he had a laptop inside the car that was monitoring the car, recording everything, so we can analyze it after each run and make sure everything worked out okay. Richard's done the world speed record thing a few times. He has at least one record that we know of underneath his belt, and that was in a front drive Civic that went well over 200 miles an hour. Tom runs the shop that built the car, and Mike works there too. Tom's in his shop does some excellent fabrication work. They've done land speed racing stuff quite a bit. Tom actually has a few records that he got on motorcycles, and that's because he's crazy. Jason was with Michael. He works at the tech center that Volkswagen has out in Oxnard, and they were there just for technical support, as was Mark Gillies, who's from Volkswagen PR. In the end, all I did was just put my right foot down on the throttle for a very long period of time. Well, we thought, having done our recce runs 2 months prior, that we'd be fine. Turns out wasn't the case at all. We made some changes to the car in the 2 months. We just lowered it a little bit, put on smaller wheels and tires. There was some work underbody to smooth out the airflow. We basically wanted the car as low to the ground as possible. We're still retaining all the requirements that put us in the production class. Every change we made to the car was an effort to make the air go around the car more smoothly. As you increase your speed or attempt to increase your speed, it gets exponentially difficult. It's every mile an hour that you want over a certain point just gets harder and harder and harder to get. You need way more power, you need way better aerodynamics. We're limited with what aerodynamic work we can do because we have to retain all the production body work, so we have to make little changes here and there as subtly as we can. The power level is still the same. We're cramming about 30 pounds of boost through a 1.4 liter engine, which is pretty intense, but it worked out in the long run thanks to the ice we're dumping in the intercooler, which keeps the inlet temperatures cool, and I think it worked all right.
We're running 16 to 17 mile an hour winds, running cross course. But if you want to make your qualifying run, it sounds like they're going to kind of leave that up to your discretion, but it's a judgment call.
Okay, Harold, next vehicle over here on course number 2 is the joint venture Jetta. This is a Class H production supercharged. 167 is the current record they're after, set by D&J Automotive Enterprises. R. Thomas set that record at Speed Week 2002.
So the first run, we're feeling like we're pros at this. I get into like 4th gear or 5th gear, and I notice there's a little bit of smoke coming out behind me. When you see smoke, there's a checklist you start going through in your head. Like, is the engine okay? You know, it's still pulling strong, so if there is a fire, it's not in front of me. What could be burning if there is a fire? I don't know.
And he's hauling. He came through mile 3 at 175.205.
Well, that's over the record. That's a good one.
Certainly is.
Driver is Carlos Lego, I believe is the name. Joint venture Jetta.
Through 4 at 180.309.
Oh, that's a good one.
180.
13 miles an hour over that record.
Had to pull the chute after we got through the 5 mile marker, so we got the time and everything. Pulled over the side, my nostrils are burning. I opened the door, smoke's pouring out of every orifice in the car. I mean, just coming out the door, coming out under the hood. And as we found out what it was, the team had wrapped the exhaust pipe all the way back from the turbocharger with header wrap. And the header wrap hadn't been up to the temperature that it was at when we were making the run. So once it got that hot, all the stuff that's in that wrap was just burning off like crazy. So after our first run, even with the car full of smoke, we had run a speed that would qualify us for the world record. But that doesn't mean we were done. You have to actually take the car over to the impound lot. You got about an hour to work on it, and then the car has to sit for 24 hours before you make a run again. You show up the next morning before sunrise to prep the car for the next run, and then when you make that run, and if that speed too qualifies for a record, the speed from the first run, the speed from the second one are averaged together, and that's your final. The next day we go out there before sunrise, get the car prepped and ready for our second run.
Meanwhile, on course 2, Carlos Lago out there with the joint venture Jetta, car 1208. I can see the Jetta hauling out there on course 2. He's by the 2 at 164.648. He's through the quarter at 175.152. And he's at mile 3, 178.834. Mile 4 is 184.188. 184.188. And through 5 at 187.147.
And then after we made that run, we get qualified for the actual record. Now that means we go back to impound. So when you go to impound, they have to check everything. They have to make sure the powertrain's okay. They check the displacement, pull the spark plug, measure bore, measure your stroke, make sure it's underneath the class record. We were fine with that. We didn't bore or stroke the engine at all. And then once you're okay with that, once they verify everything, you've got the record. And so our final result, our world speed record, was 186.3 miles an hour. About 299.999 kilometers per hour. I'll say, you know, it's okay, we still have a world land speed record. We clobbered the previous record by a lot, and 200 miles an hour, we'll just have to wait to another day.